Hello, everybody. It's your friendly neighborhood INFP, and there are two types of relationships that I tend to enjoy or fantasize about. Would be the more apt way to go about it. The first is the most obvious one, which everybody who knows me knows that my favorite MBTI fantasy relationship with like the power dynamics and everything, and it's like the golden pair in my mind, and it's like an absolutely powerful pairing is the ENTJ x INFP type of relationship, especially when both sides are healthy and they like help each other grow. But there is a different, or my, I guess you could say second favorite, or almost just as favorite as that relationship, and that is going to obviously be the ENFJ x INFP relationship. Now, this is a relationship that is a inverse relationship. What do I mean by inverse relationship? I mean you're dating your shadow. Now, for those of you who do not know what dating your shadow is in the MBTI world, it essentially means that whatever your functions are, flip them, inverse them. Whatever is introverted becomes extroverted, and whatever is extroverted becomes introverted. For an INFP, this is an ENFJ, and for an ENFJ, this is an INFP. This is how this works. So basically, you got INFP, Phi becomes Phi, Ni becomes Ni, Psi becomes Si, and T becomes Tai. That's essentially how that dynamic works, in the sense of the flip of cognitive functions, if you will. Now, why is this relationship great? I've seen a lot of ENFJs talk about this relationship. I've seen a lot of INFPs talk about this relationship, especially on forums and Facebook groups, not so much on Twitter. On Twitter, they seem to think that ESFJ x INFP is a good relationship. Yeah, we're going to move on from that because I don't want to think about it, because anyone who knows me, you tend to know that I have a oil v water relationship with ESFJs. Not that they're horrible people, because they're not horrible people. I just don't see myself getting into a relationship with one, with probably a few exceptions. But back on the ENFJ and INFP relationship dynamic, why is this relationship good? Well, the ENFJ, and you ENFJs watching this can correct me if I'm wrong, enjoy, I guess you could say, I'm going to put this in a weird way, siphoning off of emotions, off of other people's emotions. You enjoy that kind of empathetic feeling you get. You enjoy that expression of emotion, that expression of like knowing what they're feeling and helping them out with what they're feeling, and typically just general fee related stuff. And then in INFP, we internalize our feelings. So the ENFJ is siphoning and the INFP is enjoying. I know I put that in a really weird way, but there's a point to this. So, because the ENFJ enjoys expressing emotions and enjoys knowing about what it is that you're feeling and trying to help you through the things that you're feeling, and essentially help you grow as a person, especially because they can be very charismatic leaders, and some people have even suggested that they have the ability to become extraordinarily powerful cult leaders if they were so willing to choose, because they have that ability to manipulate due to knowing what other people feel and being able to manipulate a kind of emotional thing around people to make them feel a certain way, which means they, due to their fee, can make an INFP feel all kinds of special. INFP, on the other hand, is going to allow the ENFJ to vent whatever feelings the ENFJ has, whatever feeling that they're going through. An INFP is going to be able to listen to it. They're going to be able to internalize it. They're going to be able to essentially in some way feed off of it in a weird way. Okay, I'm putting this in like kind of disturbing ways, but follow me on this. So when an ENFJ has their own problems and they want to talk to an INFP and they want to like kind of when they're in their bad spot and they need someone to vent to, and if that person happens to be their INFP partner, the INFP partner kind of sucks it all up like a sponge. And then they will, in their own INFP way, whether in a creative way, whether in a empathetic way, whether it be in a very individualistic way, or in a way that shows that they actually really care about what's going on with their ENFJ partner. Remember, I'm looking at the healthy sides of this relationship, not necessarily the negative sides, though I should probably, I'll get to that. So with that being said, they help the ENFJ vent, and so the ENFJ ends up feeling better. But the other part is because INFPs are so good at keeping their emotions to themselves and have a really hard time expressing them, this can sometimes benefit an ENFJ. Now, I know a lot of ENFJs will find this absolutely frustrating because they want to feel or know what the emotions the other persons are feeling and why they're feeling those emotions. But with an INFP, what essentially they're allowing for the ENFJ is for the ENFJ to not feel everything at the same time, to essentially give them a break, to be like, okay, you felt all of these things and normally I'm letting you feel various things, but I'm going to put a stop to this and essentially kind of put a blocker so that you can't get past this barrier, so that you can have a little bit of breathing room. I'm going to go into my private area and I'm going to deal with these emotions on my own, and you are going to have some breathing room. Now, oftentimes ENFJs are going to have a problem with this because they want to do it together. However, if they allow themselves, and this is essentially what I believe in, once again, ENFJs can correct me if I'm wrong, if they allow themselves to essentially kind of let it all go and just like relax for a few moments, they can feel refreshed after that, and they can continue going through what they normally go through without feeling the burnout that they can sometimes end up feeling, which can cause a lot of destructive behaviors, whatever those behaviors may turn into, especially some manipulative behaviors, if you will. I honestly believe that an INFP allows there to be a kind of stop there to kind of prevent that burnout from happening to a point. But there's also the other issue of if an INFP is given too much, they themselves can experience burnout. So it can be a very delicate balance. From the way I see it, it's still like if you're both able to be in like a really good, healthy place, you're able to kind of work off of each other and teach a ENFJ how to internalize their emotions and find themselves and what their values are outside of all the noise that is constantly going on around them, and an ENFJ allowing for an INFP to express their emotions in a way that they're actually able to express their emotions, with an ENFJ understanding that an INFP is having difficulty and they're there to help them through expressing those emotions. It can make for a great, wonderful, loving, very actually lovey-dovey type of couple where, like, it's so sweet. You're going, ooh, that's too sweet even for my levels of blood sugar. You're going to give me diabetes with that amount of love and sweetness. That's the level that it can get to. So moving on from there, with their secondary function, because I'm going to try and do this in a kind of function v function basis as to how they can help each other out, because remember, you're dealing with essentially your weakest side, but in a very different way. It's not like your functions are flipped over, it's that your functions are inverted. So they're flipped in a different way, which is a different kind of weakness. So moving on to Ni versus Nai, with that, ENFJs are more plan-based. Everybody knows that they have longer-term goals. They have, okay, this is what I need to do to get to this level. These are the types of people I need to talk to in order to do this. This is what I need to get done in order to do this. I'm going to take all these ideas I have, and then I'm going to narrow in and focus on, okay, what do I need to make my surroundings better? What do I need to make the world a better place? What do I need to influence people so that they lead into a better area? What do I need to lead myself into a better area and, help people out? And then you have the INFP, who with their knee is they expand. They'll take one single idea, and that one single idea or thing that they see or hear from an ENFJ, and then that explodes. And then in a healthy kind of relationship, an ENFJ be like, okay, I've kind of narrowed down all the ideas, and then an INFP will take the one idea and explode it again, and then an ENFJ will narrow it down. Or if an INFP is struggling with narrowing down an idea, the ENFJ can help them narrow down that idea. Or if an ENFJ is having difficulty expanding on an idea, an INFJ can help them expand on that idea so that they can narrow it down further to go essentially down the right road that they're looking for. Now, I kind of feel like I'm talking about a lot of abstracts here, but I'm going to trust for a lot of you intuitives, you kind of get the gist of where I'm trying to go with these abstracts. So an ENFJ is typically trying to look down for the right road to go on to help guide themselves, to help guide their partner, to help guide humanity, or at least the people that they're closest to, depending on, what level of position they are in. And they are essentially looking for the right road to take when you're on a crossroad type of thing. And an INFP can help with that with their expansion of ideas, which then allows them to, through a process of elimination, go down one road or the other. And then, of course, with an INFP, they're trying to figure themselves out. They are trying to figure out the things that they're good at. They are trying to figure out their own meaning. They are trying to figure out their own person. They are trying to figure out who they actually are. And an ENFJ is and can, with their not, with like the ability to narrow down and like kind of study the person and see what they're like, they're able to allow, like, kind of guide the INFP to focus on things that they are actually good at and essentially be their, okay, in a weird way, one could say spiritual guide, but one could also say mentor. They could be absolutely fantastic mentors for INFPs if INFPs are in fact willing to accept their mentorship that allows them to guide them down the path that the ENFJ very clearly sees what the INFP doesn't. And this can go vice versa here. Then after that, we've got Psi versus C. Now, with an INFP, Psi allows them to focus on like kind of more smaller details, even though we typically hate doing that. But we notice like more things are more based on memories, nostalgia, sometimes smaller details that other people may not notice. Like we'll notice, for example, say we're walking past a store and somebody says, man, I really wish I had that item. An INFP will be like, okay, I care about this person, I'm going to keep that in mind, and they're going to store it into their store banks or memory banks for later, to which they then may go and get said person that item. Or if a person is kind of struggling with something, an INFP will see what they're struggling with, and they will go and do research based on what they're struggling with to see if they can't help them out with that. So that's kind of like how the INFP side works. Plus, they also take past experiences and kind of use that to go further in life. Like, okay, I've done that before. I know that didn't work, so I'm going to try this other new thing. Okay, I've done that before. I know that didn't work. I'm going to try this new thing. Or, in more unhealthy cases, it constantly loops for them to like continually do that unhealthy thing. But I've already talked about that. With an ENFJ, their C allows them to live in the moment, to see things that are going on around them, to notice quick changes, maybe not as quickly as an ESFP in like high C users, so ESFP, ESTP, ISTP, ISFP, all them will notice things like on a far quicker basis. But for an ESF or ENFJ, they are going to be able to they have this kind of live in the moment, understanding human nature, understanding the very quick changes in expression because that might be what they're looking for, the quick changes in outfits because that might be what they're looking for. They may notice that one day a person was wearing a certain thing and then the other day they're wearing a next thing, which, most people notice, but with an ENFJ, they'll also tend to notice the mood due to their high fee that goes along with that quick clothing change. Now, I could be entirely wrong here, so you're going to have to let me know how wrong I am on that, or if I'm actually quite accurate on that, where you're able to tie mood to clothing and be able to know whether a person's really happy that day or really sad that day based on the change of clothing that they happen to get. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. You can let me know. So they can have this kind of like live in the moment thing, a kind of like adrenaline thing that they enjoy, maybe not to the extent that like high C users you have, but there's going to be some kind of adrenaline based thing that ENFJs enjoy and kind of flirt with. They may not go all in like high C users will, but they'll definitely flirt with it a little bit. They'll definitely try it out. They'll like, there's going to be times when they're going like, yes, I'm going to go skydiving, but they're not always going to go skydiving. It depends on a lot of different factors, and it may be seen as a bit of a guilty pleasure for them. Combine those together with the ENFJ and the INFP, and you've got ENFJs who allow INFPs to live in the moment, whereas the INFPs allow the ENFJs to realize how something didn't work before and maybe something else could be figured out, or to allow them to notice details that they may have missed in something that they have been doing, which is a really interesting dynamic because usually ENFJs are the ones that are noticing things change very quickly and whatnot, but they may not necessarily remember certain things in the past or past details or past things, although they can remember them. But there's going to be like very specific instances where this could happen, where an INFP is able to help out the ENFJ, where there might be a detail that the ENFJ missed, and the INFP is like, oh, hey, what about that thing over there? And like, can't we do, something? Remember, this is all about building each other up, and if you're in a healthy relationship, the ENFJ and the INFP are going to want to help build each other up. There is that aspect of it, and then there's also the aspect of both can live in the future, but in very different ways. The INFPs has a idea of the future that they may not necessarily go and follow. Psi likes things that are comfortable. So Psi, an INFP, will make things incredibly comfortable for the ENFJ if they're in a healthy place. Like if they're, dating an INFP and they're in a healthy relationship, it's going to be one of the most comfortable relationships that you're going to be in, because INFPs like things that are comfortable. They do not like leaving their comfort zone. They like making things cozy. They like making things feel like home, like feel like a part of their personality, or if they're in a relationship, feel like a part of both of their personalities, which can be very dangerous because it might get to the point where it's too comfortable where you both don't want to leave. But an ENFJ knows that there's far more to life than just staying alone inside a very comfortable setting, and sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone and experience the adrenaline, which is C, to experience life in a more fulfilling way that then allows them to break an INFP out of their shell. That would probably be the best example of what I was trying to get for here. And then lastly, we have T versus Tie, and these are both very weak functions for both the ENFJ and the INFP, but in the same way, they're going to teach each other different perspectives in life. INFPs are, and a lot of INFPs are not going to be willing to admit this, but INFPs tend to have a more, shall I say, black and white picture of the world, not only because of phi, but also because of T. They're going to have a lot more issues with self-image as well, which the ENFJ can, help them out with, but they're also going to have a very right versus wrong mentality. That isn't just phi, that is phi tied in with T, because T sees something and says, see, that is why that thing is right and why that thing is wrong, and that thing that just happened proves that. Or it can be more on a more scientific basis, but basically T is a lot of the thing of math is math or facts are facts. That's kind of how that works. With the ENFJ, how I see it working is in a more, I guess you could say, objective kind of way of like trying to figure out the patterns of why certain things are happening in a certain way, why the INFP is happening in a different way. And this is also one of the areas where the biggest clashes can happen. So not only can one of the biggest clashes happen between phi versus phi, but it can also happen in T versus Ti. A lot of the times, especially in more negative lights, I see clashes happen here far more than Ni versus Ni or C versus Psi, because that's where a lot of their judgments come, a lot of what they base reality on comes from. So with the ENFJ, they're trying to figure out ways to make life. So this is where it essentially helps Ti for ENFJs, helps them break things down for critical analysis, for things of learning new concepts, procedures, patterns, to kind of break it down and to absorb it in a way that kind of makes sense to them, that they can kind of calculate. They are focusing on, I guess you could say, kind of a data analysis, to allow, I guess, also Ni to like narrow down, and then Phi then gets to decide what to do with the information that Ti provides it. So basically it allows them to use Ti to present ideas or concepts, or like put ideas or concepts into order. It allows them to accumulate knowledge, like consume knowledge and consume more knowledge, and then figure out how to use the knowledge that they're gaining to achieve the things they're trying to achieve. And the knowledge that they consume can help the INFP, whose T is demanding of the INFP, to essentially become more successful, to essentially become more orderly, to essentially find self-worth. And with an ENFJ, they can help the INFP essentially find that self-worth if, once again, they are both in that kind of healthy type of relationship. In a relationship where opposites attract, this is one of those instances of inverted opposites attract, and they can both help each other. An INFP can help an ENFJ become comfortable, to organize through ideas, to narrow down on ideas, or to give ideas, and be creative with the ENFJ. And ENFJ can help the INFP find themselves to a greater extent, especially by pointing out things about the INFP that either the INFP did not believe in or did not think about. And it can be, once again, one of those sickeningly sweet relationships you're out into. I have not been in a relationship, so this has mostly just been me speculating, but you guys can tell me what you think and how you might see this kind of relationship, because this kind of relationship is all about uplifting each other in a different way, because the INFJ is helping the ENFJ find themselves, and as well as the ENFJ is helping the INFP express themselves, because INFPs are absolutely terrible at expressing themselves, and ENFJs tend to have some difficulties knowing who they are, because they typically feed off of the social settings that they're usually in, and then they use Ni to try and navigate through that in setting up plans and all of that, and all the other functions to go through that. And whereas an INFP allows them to kind of slow down, find themselves, and find what truly matters, and the ENFJ allows the INFP to get out of their shell, to be more expressive, to be more, like, I guess, not as aloof and more like emotionally expressive, and to essentially live a little more than they had before. So, with that being said, that has been my ENFJ x INFP relationship. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys for the next time. Bye bye.